Hey, it's RVD. Have you heard about this Korean show that's breaking the internet?
Squid Game.
Squid Game.
Squid Game?
The Squid Game.
Squid Game.
Squid Game.
Squid the Game.
Welcome to Squid Game.
Squid Game. Squid Game.
If you, for some reason, don't know what Squid Game is, it's a Korean show, aired on Netflix. Let me just brief you what the show is about. So this guy here targets people who are in desperate need of money and offers them money if they win a game. And in the process, get their cheeks clapped and win the money. Then they are invited to play more games, and if they win a buttload of money. But if they lose, they die. There are a total of 6 games in the show. I don't want to spoil it, so I will be making only one of the game. Also, it will take a lot of time to make all 6 games, so I will be making this game in 3D. I never made a 3D game before, so this will be my first time. A huge part of 3D games are the 3D models, and I don't know 3D modeling, and I, for sure, can't learn it in such a short period of time, so I did what I had to do. I downloaded a bunch of Squid Game props, like these beds will be used in making the huge dorm room, where the participants sleep. And these weird guys with the masks are soldiers and workers. I pretty much downloaded every available free Squid Game 3D model on the internet. I think we are ready to make Squid Game. The first step is making the character. And for that, I am going to use a cylinder. Cause cylinders are cool. I made a cylinder. Gave it a prototype material, and went with the third-person movement for the game, cause third-person looks cool, and I think it suits best for the kind of style I want. Anyway, I watched a Brachy's tutorial on third-person movement, followed it along, and voila, the character now moves and jumps. The next step is remaking the dorm room, the huge room with all the beds. Let's make that room. Making this room took me a whole day. I'll show you why. First, let's make the room itself, which holds all the beds. I combined 6 planes to make the outline of the room, but it didn't work the way it wanted it to. So like any sensible game developer, I watched a Brachy's tutorial on how to build levels, and using a great tool called Pro Builder, I built a simple room. And now, I had to place around 456 beds to replicate the room. I will just show you a quick time lapse of what I did. The whole process took me about 30 minutes. So why the heck did I take a day to complete it? Because, you see how this looks. There is no lighting, so I had to add lighting to make it realistic. And apparently, you had to bake lighting. Oh, you are thinking, what is baking lights? Unity performs the calculations for baked lights in the Unity editor, and saves the results to disk as lighting data. This process is called
I don't care!
So I watched a Brachy's tutorial and followed it, and this is the result. But I'm happy, I did something, and it worked out. The next step, green light, red light is one of the most iconic game in the whole show. Most of you may already know, but I will still briefly explain the game. What happens is, players enter a huge playground and at the other end is a huge creepy doll equipped with motion sensors, facing a tree. It turns its head after saying green light, red light, and if it sees anyone moving, like any slight movement, they are dead. There's also a finish line and a timer. As you guessed, the objective of this game is to pass the finish line, without getting caught by the huge doll and within the time allotted. Or else, you're dead.
NANI?! お前はもう死んでいる。
Let's begin. In the show, the terrain is flat, and made of sand. Like in playgrounds, and doing the same thing in the game, is just not interesting. I did something interesting, YouTube, Brachy's, terrain formation. And this is the result. The player can hide behind these huge hills, and still move, Kinda like some cover. After adding some texture and details to the terrain, this is the end result. I think looks quite good. And I have seen a few, actually quite a lot of Squid Game Roblox games, and they are just not fun and interesting. So, I added interactable rocks, which can be picked up and moved, and you can throw these rocks at other players. Now this adds an interesting aspect to the game. I extended the terrain, added walls surrounding the terrain, added a huge tree and a huge creepy doll. Now I had to add functionality to the doll. The doll had to detect if the player was moving, or if the player was in some kind of motion. For that, I made a huge box which covered the entire area. It switched from being inactive to active and vice versa every few seconds, according to a timer. But then, even if we hide behind some cover, we are still detected. I tried to get around this, but it was just not effective. Instead, I used raycasts. To put it simply, I had a ray originating from the doll's head to the player. If the ray hits the player, then the player is eliminated, else, if the ray is obstructed by anything in between, then the ray won't reach the player, hence, the player is safe. The ray basically acts like the line of sight for the doll. I had the ray switch inactive after every few seconds. The head should also rotate according to the timer. Well, this doesn't seem that hard. Should be a piece of cake.
Wait a minute.
Well, that didn't work out like I imagined. I'll be back.
1 hour later.
There you go. That totally didn't take me an hour. Now, the final thing to do is adding the voice. And time it correctly with the rotating head. This was an easy task. After 10 minutes of testing, I got it right. Now came the hard part, adding multiplayer. Squid Game is not Squid Game if there is only one player, so I had to add multiplayer, but unfortunately I never once made a multiplayer game before. But it's already been a week and a half now, since I started working on this game. And the hype seems to be decreasing, so I will be making this a two-part video. In the next one, I'll be adding multiplayer to the game, add some more games, and try to release it. So till then, cheers.